The Vethkari warship hung in the darkness of space like a predator waiting to strike. Its smooth black hull reflected no light. Inside, Commander Sylvan stood at the center of the command chamber, her four eyes scanning the holographic display before her. "There," she said, pointing one long finger at a small dot moving slowly through the void. "Human vessel, scout class, minimal weapons, no escort." The officers around her shifted with excitement. The Vethkari had conquered 12 star systems. They had defeated species with superior technology, larger armies, and greater numbers. Their secret was simple. They could read minds. Not just the minds of living creatures, but the minds of ships themselves. Every advanced species built neural connections into their vessels, computers that could think, navigation systems that could learn. The Vethkari had learned to tap into these systems. They could reach out with their thoughts and pull information directly from enemy ships. Battle plans, weak points, fears, everything a commander needed to win a war before it even started. "Begin standard approach," Sylvan ordered. "Prepare the readers." The warship moved forward silently. Behind it, 300 more vessels followed in perfect formation. This was the invasion fleet. The humans had no idea they were coming. In 2 days, the Vethkari would reach human space. In 3 weeks, the human worlds would fall. It had always been this way. It would always be this way. In a chamber deep within the ship, 12 Vethkari sat in a circle. These were the readers. Their minds had been trained since birth to reach across the void and touch the thoughts of machines. Their skulls were larger than normal, their eyes clouded white. They lived only for their purpose. The lead reader, an ancient female named Tethfa, raised her hands. The others did the same. Together, they reached out toward the human ship. The vessel was called the UES Remembrance. It was small, old, and unremarkable. 3 humans slept inside in frozen chambers, dreaming of home. The ship drifted quietly, running on minimal power, following a simple patrol route. Tethfa touched the ship's mind. She felt the hum of its systems, the pulse of its navigation computer, the warmth of its life support. She pushed deeper, looking for tactical information. Fleet positions, defense codes, anything useful. What she found instead was memory. Human ships were different. The Vethkari did not know this. Human engineers had built their neural systems not just to think, but to remember. The navigation computer held imprints from its crew, fragments of their experiences, echoes of their lives. Tethava's mind filled with images that were not her own. She saw a planet burning, great cities crumbling into ash. She felt the heat of flames on skin she did not have. She heard screaming in a language she did not speak but somehow understood. Children crying for parents who would never come. Parents reaching for children they could not save. This was the fall of New Eden, the first human colony beyond Earth, destroyed by an alien species called the Kreth. 12 million humans had lived there. Only 200 survived. Tethava tried to pull away, but the memories held her. She saw what came after. She felt the cold fury that grew in human hearts. She watched as humans built new ships, faster ships, deadlier ships. She experienced their hunger for revenge like fire in her chest. Then she saw what humans did to the Kreth. It was not war, it was extinction. Humans did not stop at victory. They did not accept surrender. They hunted the Kreth across 5 star systems. They burned every Kreth world. They destroyed every Kreth ship. They killed every Kreth soldier, every Kreth elder, every Kreth child. They erased the Kreth from existence with the same cold efficiency that the Kreth had used on New Eden. And through it all, the humans felt nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, only a terrible emptiness that could never be filled. Tethva screamed. The sound echoed through the chamber. The other readers screamed with her, their minds connected, all of them experiencing the same horror. In the command chamber, Sylvan heard the screams through the communication system. Her blood went cold. In 300 years of conquest, she had never heard readers scream. "Report," she demanded. "What is happening?" No answer came. Only more screaming. Then silence. Sylvan ran. She moved through the corridors of her ship as fast as her long legs could carry her. When she reached the reading chamber, she stopped in the doorway, unable to move further. Tetheva lay dead on the floor. Her white eyes had burst. Dark blood ran from her ears and nose. 3 other readers lay beside her in the same condition. The remaining 8 were alive but shaking, their bodies curled into balls, their mouths open in silent horror. "What happened?" Sylvan whispered. One of the surviving readers looked up at her. His eyes were wild with fear. When he spoke, his voice cracked. "They remember everything," he said. "They remember every death, every loss, every moment of pain their species has ever suffered, and they carry it with them. They carry it forever." He began to laugh. The sound was broken and terrible. "We thought we were predators," he said. "We thought we were the hunters, but we are not. We have never been. We have simply never met anything like them before." Sylvan stared at the small human ship on her display. It drifted peacefully, unaware of the chaos it had caused. "Destroy it," she ordered. "Destroy it now." But even as she gave the command, she knew it was too late. The memories were already spreading. The network that connected every Vethkari mind was carrying them forward like a disease, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The medical bay of the Vethkari warship was never meant to hold so many bodies. 12 readers had entered the chamber to probe the human vessel. 4 were now dead. The remaining 8 lay on beds, their minds broken, their eyes staring at nothing. Commander Sylvan stood among them, trying to understand what had happened. The fleet physician, a thin male named Kether, moved from bed to bed with growing confusion. He had served for 40 years. He had treated wounds from a dozen wars. He had never seen anything like this. "Their neural pathways are destroyed," he said quietly. "Not damaged. Destroyed. As if someone poured fire directly into their thoughts. The human ship had no weapons that could do this," Sylvan said. "We scanned it completely. It is a simple scout vessel." "The damage did not come from outside," Cathor replied. "It came from inside, from the information they absorbed." He paused, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. What could human minds possibly contain that would cause this? Sylvan had no answer. She turned to the one reader who could still speak. His name was Velnus. He was young, the newest member of the reading circle. Perhaps that was why he had survived when the elders had not. "Tell me everything," Sylvan ordered. "What did you see?" Velnus did not look at her. He stared at the ceiling, his body trembling under thin sheets. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Humans do not forget," he said. "We always believe that memory fades, that pain grows smaller with time, that loss becomes easier to carry. This is how the Vethkari mind works. We experience, we process, we release. But humans are different." He closed his eyes. A tear ran down his gray cheek. "They hold on to everything, every death, every betrayal, every moment of suffering their species has experienced. They carry it all, generation after generation, not because they cannot let go, because they choose not to." Sylvan felt cold. Why would any species choose to carry such weight? "Because it makes them strong," Velnus said. "Their pain is fuel, their grief is armor. When humans fight, they fight with the strength of everyone they have ever lost. When humans die, they die knowing that their memory will make others stronger." He finally looked at her. His eyes held terror, but also something else. Something that might have been respect. "We saw the fall of New Eden," he continued. "We felt what it means to watch your children burn. We experienced the emptiness of surviving when everything you love is gone, and then we saw what humans did with that emptiness." "The Kreth," Sylvan said. "Yes, the Kreth believed they were strong. They believed that destroying one human colony would teach the others fear. They were wrong. Humans do not learn fear from loss. They learn fury." Velnus sat up slowly, his hands shaking. "The Kreth War lasted 11 years. Humans did not win because they had better weapons. They did not win because they had more soldiers. They won because they refused to stop. Every time the Kreth killed a human, 2 more took their place. Every time the Kreth destroyed a ship, humans built 3 more. The Kreth grew tired. The Kreth made mistakes. The Kreth asked for peace. And the humans refused," Sylvan said. She had heard stories of the Kreth, though she had never believed them entirely. The humans did not just refuse, they could not accept. The memories would not let them. Every human soldier carried the weight of New Eden in their heart. They could not stop until the debt was paid. So they kept fighting. They kept killing. They did not stop until there were no Kreth left to kill. Silence filled the medical bay. Even Kether had stopped his work to listen. "There is something else," Velna said. "Something worse than the violence." "What could be worse?" "The love," Velnus whispered. "We felt what humans feel for each other. The depth of their bonds. The strength of their connections. A Vethkari loves their family. A Vethkari loves their clan. But a human loves with their entire being. They form attachments so powerful that losing them causes physical pain." He wrapped his arms around himself, as if trying to hold something together. When humans lost New Eden, they did not just lose a colony. They lost 12 million pieces of themselves. Mothers who would never hold their children again. Fathers who would never see their sons grow. Friends who had shared their lives since childhood. Every single loss was a wound that would never heal. "And they remember all of it," Sylvan said. "All of it. Forever. Passed down through generations. Written into their ships, their monuments, their songs. They call it remembrance. They believe that forgetting the dead is the same as killing them twice." Sylvan looked at the bodies of the dead readers. The strongest minds in the Vethkari fleet, destroyed by contact with a single human scout ship. "We cannot fight them," she said. The words felt strange in her mouth. She had never said them before about any enemy. "No," Velnus agreed. "We cannot. Because fighting them means giving them more to remember, more pain to fuel their fury, more dead to add to their weight. They would carry our war for 1,000 years. They would never stop. They would never forgive." Sylvan made her decision. "Seal the reading chamber," she ordered. "Quarantine everyone who had contact with the human data. We will destroy the human ship and continue our patrol. No one speaks of this. No one shares what was learned. The memories must not spread." But even as she gave the orders, she knew she was too late. The Vethkari network had already carried the first whispers of human memory to other ships. The infection had begun, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The nightmares began on the third night. Across the Vethkari invasion fleet, 300 ships moved in perfect formation toward human space. Inside each ship, thousands of crew members worked, slept, and lived their normal lives. They did not know what had happened on Commander Sylvan's vessel. They did not know that their minds were no longer entirely their own. The Vethkari network was their greatest weapon. Every member of their species was connected through invisible threads of thought. They could share information instantly. They could coordinate attacks without speaking. They could feel when their brothers and sisters were in danger. But the network had no walls. It had no filters. What one Vethkari knew, all Vethkari would eventually know. On the warship Eternal Victory, a young officer named Kelvin woke screaming. His roommate found him pressed against the wall, his eyes wide with terror, his hands clawing at his own face. "The fire!" Kelvin gasped. "The fire is everywhere. The children are burning. I can hear them calling for their mothers." His roommate tried to calm him, but Kelvin did not stop screaming until the medical team arrived and filled his blood with sedatives. He was the first. He was not the last. Within hours, the sickness spread. Officers woke crying in languages they did not speak. Engineers reported seeing faces in the machinery, human faces twisted with pain and loss. Soldiers found themselves frozen in corridors, overwhelmed by grief for people they had never met. The fleet physicians had no explanation. They tested for disease. They searched for radiation. They looked for poison in the food and water. They found nothing. The sickness was not in the body. It was in the mind. On the flagship, Commander Sylvan received report after report with growing dread. The quarantine had failed. The human memories were spreading faster than she had believed possible. Each infected mind passed the memories to others through the network. Each new carrier amplified the signal. "We must break the network," she told her senior officers. "Disconnect every ship. Silence all mental communication." "If we do that, we lose our greatest advantage," Admiral Kethavan argued. He was old, veteran of 50 campaigns. He had never lost a battle. "Without the network, we are just ships, alone, vulnerable." "We are already vulnerable," Sylvan replied. The humans have found a way to attack us without weapons. Their memories are poison to us. Memories cannot kill. 4 of my readers are dead. 4 more may never recover. And the symptoms are spreading to crew members who never touched the human data. How many must die before you believe? Admiral Kethavon had no answer, but he also refused to give the order to break the network. Without their mental connection, the Vethkari were nothing. Their entire civilization was built on shared thought. Breaking the network would be like cutting off their own hands. So the fleet continued forward, and the nightmares continued to spread. On the cruiser, Swift Judgment, Captain Vershawn began to understand what her fleet was facing. Unlike the others, she did not fight the memories. She let them flow through her mind. She watched them like stories from a distant world. She saw humanity's history, not just New Eden, but everything that came before. She saw trenches filled with poisoned air, where young men died choking on their own lungs. She saw cities erased by fire that fell from the sky, bright as 1,000 suns. She saw people marched into chambers and turned to ash for no reason except the color of their skin or the faith of their fathers. Humans had done terrible things to each other. They had invented new ways to cause suffering that the Vethkari had never imagined. They had killed millions of their own kind in wars fought over land, over resources, over ideas. But Vershawn also saw something else. She saw the humans who had fought against the darkness. She saw doctors who walked into disease and death to save strangers. She saw soldiers who threw themselves on weapons to protect friends. She saw mothers who starved so their children could eat. She felt what humans called hope, the strange belief that tomorrow could be better than today, even when all evidence said otherwise. The stubborn refusal to accept that darkness was permanent. And she understood finally why human memories were so dangerous. The Vethkari had conquered 12 star systems because they had never faced true resistance. The species they defeated had given up when the cost of fighting became too high. They had calculated their odds, seen that victory was impossible, and surrendered. Humans did not calculate odds. Humans did not surrender. Humans kept fighting when their cities burned and their children died. They kept hoping when hope was foolish. They kept loving when love only brought pain. This was what the memories taught, not just the horror of human war, but the terrifying strength of human spirit. The Vethkari had spent 300 years believing they were the strongest species in the galaxy. Now they were learning that strength meant something different than they had thought. Vershawn called her senior officers to the command chamber. "We cannot fight the humans," she told them, "not because they will defeat us in battle, but because defeating us will only make them stronger. Every soldier we kill becomes a memory. Every ship we destroy becomes fuel for their fury. They will never stop. They will never forget. They will carry our war for 1,000 generations." Her officers stared at her in silence. "What do you suggest?" one finally asked. Vershawn looked at the star map, where human space glowed soft and blue. "We turn around," she said. "We go home, and we pray that the humans never learn we were coming." But even as she spoke, she knew the fleet would not listen. They were Vethkari. They had never retreated. They did not know how. And so they continued forward, carrying the human memories with them like a disease with no cure. The invasion fleet began to tear itself apart on the 7th day. It started with the destroyer Crimson Dawn. The ship's captain, a decorated veteran named Sorthan, woke from a nightmare convinced that he was human. He believed his family had died on New Eden. He believed his children had burned in the flames. He walked onto his bridge, looked at his crew, and saw enemies. "Kreth," he whispered, his 4 eyes wild with borrowed madness. "You are all Kreth. You killed them. You killed my children." He fired on his own crew before they could stop him. 17 Vethkari died before his officers brought him down. But the damage was done. The Crimson Dawn drifted out of formation, its command structure shattered, its surviving crew hiding in locked rooms. Within hours, similar incidents spread across the fleet. On the battleship Iron Resolve, the engineering team disconnected themselves from the network by cutting into their own skulls. They believed this would save them from the memories. It did not. They died from infection within days, their minds already too damaged to recover. On the carrier Endless Sky, 2 fighter squadrons launched without orders and began attacking other Vethkari ships. The pilots screamed about revenge over their communications. They spoke of names that no Vethkari had ever carried. When they were finally destroyed, they died laughing. Commander Sylvan watched her fleet dissolve into chaos from her flagship's command chamber. The holographic display showed ship after ship falling out of formation. Red lights marked vessels that had gone silent. Yellow lights marked vessels reporting internal conflicts. Green lights, the ships still functioning normally, grew fewer every hour. "We have lost 47 vessels," her tactical officer reported. His voice shook. "Not to enemy action, to ourselves." "How many dead?" "Estimated 12,000. The number's rising." Sylvan closed her eyes. 12,000 Vethkari, killed by memories from a single human scout ship, a vessel with 3 sleeping crew members and no weapons capable of penetrating their shields. "Some ships are attempting to flee," the tactical officer continued. "They are breaking formation and heading toward home space." "Let them go," Sylvan said. "There is no point in trying to hold the fleet together. If they reach the homeworld, they will carry the contamination with them. The contamination has already spread beyond our ability to contain it. The network connects every Vethkari in existence. What we have seen, others will eventually see. What we feel, others will eventually feel." She turned to face her bridge crew. They looked back at her with fear in their eyes. Fear of the enemy, fear of themselves, fear of the thoughts that waited in the darkness of sleep. "Signal Admiral Kethvon," she ordered. "Tell him I am taking command of what remains of the fleet. We are aborting the invasion." The tactical officer hesitated. "The Admiral will not accept this." "The Admiral is dead. I received word an hour ago." He walked into an airlock and opened it to space. His final words were an apology to someone named Sarah. "There is no one named Sarah in our species." Silence filled the bridge. Outside, another ship exploded, torn apart by internal weapons fire. Sylvan moved to her communication station. She had one final duty to perform. She began recording a message for Vethkari High Command. "This is Commander Sylvan of the invasion fleet. Our mission has failed. We have encountered an enemy unlike any we have faced before. Not because of their weapons or their technology, but because of their minds." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "We read their ship. That was our mistake. We believed we could take their secrets as we have taken the secrets of so many others. But humans do not carry secrets. They carry weight. The weight of every loss their species has suffered. The weight of every death, every tragedy, every moment of pain in their history. This weight is too heavy for us. It is crushing our minds. It is turning our soldiers against each other. It is spreading through our network like fire through dry grass. Within days, there will be no invasion fleet. Within weeks, I fear there will be no Vethkari at all." She thought about what Velnas had told her, about human love, about human hope, about the terrible strength that came from carrying everything and continuing anyway. "Do not engage the humans," she said. "Do not read their ships. Do not probe their minds. Leave them alone. Let them believe we were never here." She ended the recording with a final image, pulled from the memories that now lived in her own mind. It showed a human female sitting in the ruins of a burning city. Smoke rose around her. Bodies lay in the streets. Everything she had known was gone. But she was singing, a soft, gentle song, and in her arms, wrapped in torn cloth, was a child, sleeping, safe, alive. The woman's eyes held no anger, no despair, only love for the small life she held, and determination to see one more sunrise. Sylvan sent the message. Then she sat back in her chair and waited for the end. Around her, the Vethkari fleet continued to destroy itself. Ships crashed into each other, weapons fired at random, escape pods launched into empty space. 300 vessels, the pride of an empire, reduced to scattered wreckage by memories of a species they had never met. And somewhere in the distance, the UES Remembrance drifted peacefully through the void, its crew still sleeping, still dreaming of home, unaware that they had already won a war that had never been fought. 3 weeks later, the UES Remembrance was found drifting at the edge of human space. The patrol ship that discovered it was called the Horizon's Edge. Its captain, a woman named Maria Chen, had been searching for the missing scout vessel for days. When she finally found it, floating silent and dark against the stars, she felt a wave of relief. Life signs? She asked her crew. 3 humans in cryo-sleep. Vital signs stable. They appear to be unharmed. What happened to them? Why are they so far off course? Unknown. The ship's navigation system shows some unusual activity from about 3 weeks ago. It looks like something interfaced with their computer, but there is no damage. No evidence of attack. Captain Chen ordered the Remembrance brought aboard for inspection. The 3 crew members were woken from cryo-sleep and taken to medical. They remembered nothing unusual. They had gone to sleep on a routine patrol. They had expected to wake up at their destination. Instead, they woke up surrounded by confused officers asking questions they could not answer. The technicians who examined the Remembrance found nothing wrong. The ship was old but functional. Its weapons had not been fired. Its shields had not been tested. The only strange data was a brief spike in the neural navigation system, as if something had reached into the computer and pulled information out. Could be a glitch, the lead technician reported. These old systems have problems sometimes. I do not see any sign of hostile contact. Captain Chen accepted the report. The Remembrance was returned to service. Its crew was given leave and then assigned to new duties. The incident was filed and forgotten. But far across the galaxy, in Vethkari space, the consequences of that brief contact were still unfolding. The invasion fleet was gone. Of 300 ships, only 47 had made it back to Vethkari territory. The rest were destroyed, abandoned, or lost. 80,000 soldiers had died, not in battle, but in chaos and madness. The survivors carried the human memories with them. They spread through the network like ripples in water. Within weeks, every Vethkari in existence had experienced fragments of human thought. The nightmares came to all of them. The grief, the love, the terrible weight of remembrance. Some went mad. Some took their own lives. But most simply changed. They became quieter, more thoughtful, less certain of their place in the universe. The Vethkari High Command received Commander Sylvan's final message. They watched the recording of the human woman singing in the ruins. They felt what she felt, hope in the face of despair, love in the midst of loss, the refusal to surrender to darkness. For the first time in their history, the Vethkari chose not to fight. They withdrew their remaining fleets from the borders of human space. They closed their territories to outside contact. They sent a single message through diplomatic channels, addressed to humanity as a whole. The message was short. It said, "We read your ship. We understand now. We will not come." Human intelligence analysts studied the message for months. They tried to understand what it meant. They searched for hidden meanings, secret codes, tactical implications. They found nothing. "Maybe it is just what it says," one analyst suggested. "Maybe they looked at us and decided we were not worth the trouble." "But we did nothing to them," another argued. "We did not even know they existed." Perhaps that is the point. They knew we existed. They studied us, and they chose to leave us alone. The humans never learned the full truth. They never discovered that the Vethkari had planned an invasion. They never knew that 300 warships had been heading toward their worlds. They never understood that they had won a war without fighting a single battle. In the years that followed, the Vethkari became quiet neighbors. They traded occasionally. They communicated rarely. They watched humanity from a distance with something that might have been respect, or might have been fear, or might have been both. And when young Vethkari asked their elders why they avoided human space, the answer was always the same. Because they remember, the elders would say. They remember everything, every loss, every death, every moment of pain. They carry it all, and they use it to make themselves stronger. We cannot defeat such a species. We cannot outlast them. We can only hope that they never have reason to remember us. On Earth, life continued as it always had. Humans built cities and raised children. They fought small wars and made small peaces. They loved and lost and loved again. They did not know that their greatest weapon was not their ships or their soldiers. It was their hearts, their stubborn, foolish, beautiful hearts that refused to let go, that held on to every moment of joy and every moment of sorrow, that carried the weight of all who came before and passed it down to all who would come after. They did not know that somewhere in the darkness of space, an empire had looked into their souls and seen something that terrified them more than any weapon ever could. They did not know that they had already won. And perhaps that was the most human thing of all, to carry such power and never realize it, to be so strong and feel so ordinary, to change the fate of empires simply by being who they were. The stars continued to turn. The universe continued to expand, and humanity continued to remember. That was enough. That had always been enough. That would always be enough.